I need to experience other men to know if you're the one. Otherwise, the wedding is off. My fiancée demanded. I said, okay. The next day, I canceled the venue, returned the ring, and moved out. While she was experiencing, she called panicking. I said, wedding's off. Enjoy. And hung up. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. The final invoice for the caterer was sitting on the kitchen counter. A stark reminder that in 73 days I was supposed to be a married man. I wasn't nervous. I was settled in a good way. The kind of calm that comes from knowing you've built something solid. I'd spent the evening cross-referencing honeymoon hiking trails in Iceland. My laptop warming my knees while Sarah flipped through a bridal magazine on the other end of the sofa. The silence between us was the comfortable kind. Or so I'd thought. But when I glanced up, I saw the tension. It was in the way her thumb tapped a frantic rhythm against the glossy page in the tight set of her jaw. She wasn't reading. She was rehearsing. You're quiet tonight, I said, closing my laptop. She flinched as if I'd caught her at something. Just tired. Wedding stuff is a lot. We're through the worst of it. It's just the fun details now. I offered a smile. Unless you're having second thoughts about the chocolate fountain. She didn't smile back. She closed the magazine with a sharp slap. Actually, Jake, we need to talk about the wedding. About us. A cold trickle, like the first drop of ice water, slid down my spine. Okay, talk. Is it the budget? Because we can scale back the it's not the money, she interrupted, her voice unnaturally steady. She turned to face me, tucking her legs beneath her. Her expression was a strange mix of resolve and pity that made my stomach clench. It's foundational. Foundational. I repeated the word, trying to mine it for meaning. The foundation is that we love each other, that we want a life together. That's pretty solid, Sarah. But how do we know? She burst out, her hands fluttering. How do I know? Know what? That you're the one. She said it like it was a term she'd studied in a textbook. Jake, you're the only serious relationship I've ever had. We got together in college. What if I'm settling? What if there's someone out there who is a better fit for me? And I'm just choosing you because you're here? Because you're safe and familiar? The ice water was now a full stream, freezing my insides. Are you saying you have feelings for someone else? No, not specifically. It's not about a person. It's about an experience, a certainty. She leaned forward, her eyes gleaming with a zealous, self-absorbed light. I need to experience other men to date, to be with other people, to be sure. Otherwise, I'll always wonder. And I can't go into a marriage with that kind of doubt hanging over me. It wouldn't be fair to either of us. The room tilted slightly. I heard the words, but they seemed to bounce off a newly formed layer of numb shock. So, you want to break up? The sentence felt foreign in my mouth. No, God. Jake, you're not listening. She sighed, exasperated as if I was a slow student. Not break up, just press pause. You wait for me. I go out. I have my experiences. I live a little. And if after I've seen what's out there, I choose you, then I'll know it's real. It'll be unshakable and the wedding will be back on stronger than ever. She paused, letting the monstrous logic of it hang in the air between us. When I didn't speak, she added the kicker, her voice softening into a manipulative croon. Otherwise, the wedding is off. I can't commit with this uncertainty. Don't you want me to be sure? Don't you want a wife who is 100% irrevocably certain you are her person? If you love me, you'll understand this is for us. I stared at her. The woman I'd planned a future with, whose family I'd sat through countless dinners with, whose dreams I'd memorized, was gone. In her place was a stranger wearing her face, speaking a language of breathtaking selfishness. The love I felt didn't vanish. It curdled, hardening into something cold and heavy in my chest. I needed absolute clarity. I needed to hear her say it in the plainest terms possible. My voice, when it came out, was disturbingly calm. Flat. Let me make sure I understand. You are formally requesting that I, your fiancé, put my life, my heart, and my dignity on indefinite hold, while you, my fiancé, go out and sleep with other men. This field research is to determine if my value is high enough to ultimately earn the prize of being your husband. Is that the proposal? Her face flushed with irritation. You're twisting it. You're making it sound so cheap and transactional. It's about emotional and experiential verification. It's about knowing. The question stands, Sarah. Is that what you are asking of me? She crossed her arms, defiance solidifying her features. Yes, that's what I need for us. For a long moment, there was only the sound of the refrigerator humming in the kitchen. I looked at the woman on my sofa, at the engagement ring glittering on her finger. The ring I'd spent 4 months saving for. I saw the utter conviction in her eyes, the complete lack of awareness of the nuclear weapon she'd just detonated in the center of our shared life. She truly believed this was a reasonable, even courageous request. The future I'd seen, the house, the trips, the quiet years growing old together dissolved like mist. All that was left was the stark, simple truth of the person in front of me. I nodded slowly. Okay, I said. The single word hung in the air. Relief flooded her features. The tension melted from her shoulders and a sweet, triumphant smile spread across her face. She'd won. She got in her way. She uncurled herself and moved to hug me. I knew you'd understand. This is for the best, for us. I stood up before she could reach me, her arms closing on empty air. I'm tired, I said, the flat tone still in place. I'm going to sleep in the guest room. Oh, okay, she said, the smile faltering only slightly. She mistook my shock for noble sacrifice. We can talk more in the morning. I love you. I didn't answer. I walked down the hall, closed the guest room door behind me, and leaned against it. In the dark, silent room, the plan began to form. Not a plan of anger or revenge, but of silent, total severance. They okay. Hadn't been agreement. It had been a detonator, and I had just pressed it. I didn't sleep. I lay in the dark guest room on a bed that still smelled of storage, and watched the digital clock on the nightstand bleed from red number to red number. The initial shock hardened into a crystal clear, cold certainty. There would be no conversation in the morning. There was nothing left to say. Her proposal wasn't a negotiation. It was a statement of my worth to her. Contingent, probationary, subject to comparison. My only power now lay in my response. As the first gray light of dawn filtered through the blinds, I moved. I started with my phone, silencing it. I dressed in jeans and a plain t-shirt. Clothes for moving. For working. I packed a single duffel bag from the guest room closet with essentials, a week's worth of clothes, my toiletries, my passport, and important documents from the fireproof lockbox. I took only what was unequivocally mine, or what held no memory of her. The sweater she'd bought me for our first Christmas stayed folded in the drawer. The book of poetry she'd inscribed with a sweet note remained on the shelf. I worked with a methodical silence that felt both alien and right. This wasn't a heated escape. It was a strategic withdrawal. My first call was at 8:01 a.m., the moment the wedding venue's office would open. I stood in the empty kitchen, the final caterer invoice still a mockery on the counter. Yes. Hello. I said, my voice perfectly politely flat. This is Jake Wilson. I have a wedding reservation for September 15th. I need to cancel it immediately. The coordinator on the other end, a woman named Diane who had gushed over our love story months ago, made a sympathetic noise. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Is everything all right? Would you like to discuss rescheduling? No. A permanent cancellation. Death in the family. The lie was smooth and cold. I understand we will forfeit the deposit. That's fine. Please email me the formal cancellation confirmation and any final invoice. Of course, Mr. Wilson, I'm so very sorry for your loss. Thank you. I hung up. One by one. I dismantled the future we'd built. The caterer, the photographer, the band. Each call was a variation of the same, polite, firm, final. I cited the same fictitious family tragedy. I accepted every financial penalty without argument. Money was just a number on a screen. My freedom from the spectacle was priceless. The final piece was the ring. I drove to the jeweler in the quiet part of the morning. The same man who had helped me choose it 2 years ago, his eyes kind and excited, now looked at me with profound pity as I placed the velvet box on the glass counter. I need to return this, I said. Is everything okay, son? The engagement is off. What's your return policy? He processed the return, his face solemn. When he handed me the receipt, a fraction of what I'd paid back on my card, he said, "You'll find the right one." I believe I just avoided the wrong one, I replied and left. Back at the apartment, the silence was profound. Sarah was still asleep, or perhaps pretending to be. I finished packing a few boxes of my books, my laptop, the small toolbox that was mine. I left behind the framed photos, the shared throw blankets, the set of dishes we picked out together. I wanted no relics. As I carried the last box to my car, a memory flashed, unbidden and brutal. The night I proposed. It had been on a pier overlooking the lake, not original, but hers. She'd cried a happy, breathless sound, and thrown her arms around my neck, whispering, "Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes," into my ear. The ring had sparkled under the string lights. The feeling that night had been one of absolute earned certainty. I had been sure. The cruelty of her new requirement that her certainty required the degradation of what we had struck me anew not as a pain but as a clarifying fact. That night, on the pier I had been proposing to a ghost. I left the apartment key on the kitchen counter right on top of the caterer's invoice, a full circle. I closed the door for the last time, hearing the soft, definitive click of the latch. My new temporary space was a furnished studio Airbnb downtown. Generic and clean, it smelled of citrus cleaner and neutrality. I set my duffel bag down on the bare wooden floor. The emptiness of it was a relief. That's when my phone, now on silent but set to vibrate, began to dance on the kitchenette counter. Sarah. I watched it buzz until it stopped. A minute later, it started again. I didn't touch it. Then the notification for a voicemail appeared. I poured a glass of water. I sat on the stiff sofa. I took a slow sip. Then, and only then, I played the message. Her voice filled the sterile room. Tiny through the speaker laced with a confusion that was already curdling into anxiety. Hey, I just got home. Where are you? Some of your stuff is. Did you go to your mom's? I tried calling but it went straight to voicemail. That's weird. Call me back. The date was fine. Weird to talk about. I need to hear your voice. Just call me. Okay. A pause. A shaky breath. Okay. But there it was. The date was fine. She'd done it. She'd started her experience immediately the morning after her ultimatum. She'd had coffee or maybe more with some other man while I was methodically erasing her from my future. The last faint ghost of doubt. Maybe she'll wake up and see how insane this is evaporated. I didn't save the message. I deleted it. Then I went into my settings and blocked her number. The action felt less like an emotional decision and more like a necessary security protocol. Finally, I sent 2 texts, one to my parents. Wedding is off. Sarah and I are done. I'm safe and okay. Please don't ask for details right now. I'll explain soon. I love you. One to my best friend. Mark called off the wedding. It's done. Don't need to talk. Just didn't want you to hear it from the rumor mill. Getting some space. His reply was almost instant. Holy, you okay? My couch is yours. I'm okay. Thanks, man. I turned my phone off. The silence in the studio apartment was complete, deep, and for the first time in years, entirely my own. The first week in the studio was defined by a silence so profound it had a texture. It wasn't the passive quiet of an empty house. It was an active, chosen stillness. I didn't turn on the TV. I let my phone remain a dark, inert slab. The only sounds were the hum of the mini fridge, the rush of water in the shower, the scrape of a knife on toast. I existed within the parenthesis of my own making. The sleep I'd missed the night of the ultimatum caught up with me in heavy dreamless waves. I'd crash for 10 hours, wake disoriented, and make coffee in the silence, staring at the brick wall of the building opposite. The initial adrenaline-fueled clarity of my actions settled into a low, steady hum of grief. But it was a strange grief. I wasn't mourning Sarah, not the person who had laid out that ultimatum. I was mourning the ghost she'd killed, the woman I'd thought she was, the future I'd painted with such care. It was like grieving a character in a book who had a terrible, abrupt ending. The unfairness of it would rise in my throat sometimes, bitter and metallic. I had been loyal. I had been planning a life. I had saved. I had listened. I had shown up for her family's dramas. I had learned to love the terrible indie film she adored. I had done everything you're supposed to do. And my reward was to be placed on a shelf like a product awaiting quality assurance. My value to be determined by a market test I never agreed to. One afternoon, standing in the sterile kitchenette, the question finally surfaced from the depths, was I not enough? As soon as I thought it, I knew it was the wrong question. It was the trap she had laid. The question wasn't about my value. It was about her inability to recognize it. It was about a hole in her that no other person could ever fill. A bottomless pit of need for external validation. She called certainty. My crime wasn't being inadequate. My crime was believing my adequacy was the point. With that realization, the last tether of confusion snapped. The grief began to recede. Not completely, but enough to see the shore. I turned my phone back on, bracing for an onslaught. A few concerned texts from my parents and Mark, which I answered with brief, reassuring replies. Nothing from Sarah's number. It was still blocked, but the call log showed a string of unknown caller attempts. I deleted them. I didn't unblock her. Not yet. Instead, I started to fill the silence with new sounds. I found a running trail along the river. At first, my lungs burned and my legs protested, heavy with inertia. But I kept going. The rhythm of my feet on the pavement, the slap of my own breath, became a meditation. I wasn't running from anything. I was running towards a version of myself I'd neglected. The one whose energy wasn't spent managing someone else's emotional calculus. I reconnected with Mark, not for a pity party, but for a beer and a baseball game. He didn't press for details, just clapped me on the shoulder and said, "You look lighter, man," and I was at work. A project I'd half-heartedly pitched months ago, sidelined by wedding planning, suddenly had my full attention. I dove into the data, the strategy. My boss noticed. "This is sharp, Jake. This is the kind of focus I remember." The promotion that had seemed a distant possibility began to feel like an inevitable outcome of this new undiluted concentration. I bought a single ridiculously expensive orchid for the studio. I learned how to care for it. I cooked meals for one, experimenting with recipes too spicy for Sarah's taste. I started reading fiction again, getting lost in worlds that had nothing to do with my own. This was the quiet justice, not a dramatic revenge, but the daily deliberate act of building a life that was entirely authentically mine. The peace I found was not an absence of pain, but the presence of a deep and growing self-respect. Her experience was her prison. My silence was my foundation. After about a month, curiosity, cold, and clinical got the better of me. One evening, I unblocked her number. I didn't do it to reopen a door. I did it to confirm the door was welded shut, and to see what debris had piled up against it. The phone vibrated once, then began a frantic, near-continuous seizure. Notification after notification stacked up on the screen, a timeline of her unraveling dozens of texts, pages of missed calls, voicemail alerts piled like unread verdicts. I didn't open a single one. I just watched the notifications bloom, a digital monument to the consequences of her own words. Then I put the phone face down on the table. I finished my chapter. I watered my orchid. The silence in my apartment was no longer empty, it was full of my own life. The orchid on my windowsill had sprouted a new waxy leaf. My promotion at work had come through. A new title, a significant raise, an office with a view of the river I now ran alongside. My peace was no longer a defensive silence. It was an active, thriving state. The notifications that had flooded my phone when I'd unblocked Sarah sat like a sealed archive. I hadn't opened them. They were evidence not for me, but a testament to the path I'd chosen not to walk. Curiosity, however, is a cold companion. One rainy Saturday, with a book in one hand and a cup of coffee in the other, I finally opened the text thread. It was a cascading timeline of a collapse. Stage 1, confusion and frustration. The first 48 hours. Jake, why did you block me? We need to talk about this like adults. You can't just run away from a conversation. This is childish. My mom just called. The venue said the wedding is canceled due to a death in the family. What the hell did you do? What did you tell them? Call me now. Stage 2. The panic pivot. Week 1 to 2. The tone shifted from anger to wheedling manipulation. Okay, I get it. You're hurt. I'm sorry I hurt you, but you're overreacting. Can we please just talk? The experience thing, it's not what you think. It's making me realize how good we had it. These guys are awful. They're so self-absorbed. They just want one thing. I went on 3 dates. 3? That's all it took. I get it now. You're the one. I'm calling it off. Please answer me. I'm at our apartment. Where are you? It feels so empty without you here. Stage 3. Desperation. Week 3 to 4. The messages grew longer, more unhinged, punctuated by late-night sends. I told my parents we had a fight, that you needed space. They think you're being unreasonable. I'm defending you. Please just give me a chance to fix this. I can't sleep. I keep thinking about the way you used to make tea for me when I was stressed. No one does that. No one knows me like you do. I'm ending the experiment. It's over. I choose you. I am certain. Do you hear me? I am sure the wedding can be back on. We can reschedule. Just say something. Jake, I'm scared. I need you. This isn't what was supposed to happen. I read them with a detached clinical interest. There was no pain, no longing, just the observation of a predictable algorithm. Anger, bargaining, pleading. The subtext of every message was clear. My experiment yielded unsatisfying results. Please resume your post as my primary comfort provider. I was about to close the app when my phone buzzed in my hand. Not a text, a call. Melissa, Sarah's sister. I let it ring 3 times. This I decided I would answer. Not for her, but to set a boundary that would hopefully filter back. I accepted the call. Melissa. Jake. Finally. Oh my God. Do you have any idea what you're doing? Her voice was a burst of accusatory static, devoid of greeting. Sarah is a wreck. She's devastated. She can't eat. She can't sleep. What you're doing is so cruel. I waited a beat for her to finish. Is there a specific reason you're calling? The reason is you need to stop this ridiculous silent treatment and act like a man. She made a mistake. Okay. A tiny human mistake. But you're blowing up your entire future over a little fight. You're destroying everything. There was no fight, Melissa. I said, my voice calm and low. She issued an ultimatum. I accepted it. The wedding is off. My decision is final. An ultimatum. She said she just needed some reassurance, a little space to feel sure. You're twisting it because your pride is hurt. For God's sake, she loves you. Are you really going to throw away 5 years because your feelings got bruised? Be the bigger person. Call her. I could see the family script playing out perfectly. Sarah had spun the story, minimizing her demand into a vague need for reassurance, painting me as the petulant, prideful villain. I am being the bigger person, I replied. The phrase feeling new and true in this context. By removing myself from a situation where my commitment was treated as a conditional subscription. I'm not discussing this with you. Do not contact me again. You're being an ash. I ended the call. I then blocked Melissa's number. The action felt clean, surgical. The text from Sarah's number, now unblocked and thus able to come through, began again with renewed frenzy. They were no longer paragraphs, but shattered fragments. Did my sister call you? Please don't listen to her. Jake, answer me. I'm sorry, I'll do anything. Then they stopped. For 2 days, there was nothing. The silence felt different. Charged like the air before a lightning strike. It broke at 2:17 a.m. on a Tuesday. My phone on silent lit up with the familiar number. It went a voicemail. A minute later, the notification appeared. This one I played. I needed to hear the end of the story. Her voice was a raw, venomous scrape. All pretense of sadness, all manipulative sweetness was gone. This was the core, exposed and furious. You arrogant prick, she spat the words. I could almost see her face flushed with rage alone in that apartment we used to share. You think you're too good for me now? You think you won some kind of moral victory? You were lucky to have me. I was trying to make us stronger and you just quit. You're a coward. You couldn't handle a strong woman knowing her own mind. You needed me to be a meek wife who never questioned anything, didn't you? Well, guess what? I'm not her. I was doing the brave thing, the hard thing. And you ran away because your fragile ego couldn't take it. She was screaming now, her voice cracking. You'll die alone, Jake. You hear me? Alone. And I'll be fine. I have options. You were always the safe choice. And safe is boring. I hope you enjoy your boring, self-righteous little life. I'm done. I'm done. There was a final shuddering breath, and the call ended. In the dark of my apartment, I felt nothing but a profound settling finality. The mask had not just slipped. It had been hurled against the wall and shattered. This was the true product of her experiment. Not certainty, but corrosive resentment. She wasn't angry because she missed me. She was angry because I had revoked my consent to be her safety net, her control subject. I had taken her safe and boring option off the table, and in doing so, revealed her terrifying freedom. She hated me for it. I saved that voicemail, not to torment myself, but as a bookmark. The final page of that particular chapter. The next morning, I blocked her number again, this time permanently. The gallery opening was Mark's idea. His girlfriend, Chloe, was a talented ceramicist, and one of her pieces had been selected for a small downtown collective show. It'll be wine, weird little crackers, and people pretending to understand abstract art, he'd said. A perfect low-stakes night out. You've been a hermit long enough. He was right. The hermit phase had evolved into a rich, full solitude, but it was time to re-enter the stream of life. Not as a wounded creature, but as a curious observer. I wore a simple navy button-down, no-tie clothes that felt like me. I felt good, light. The gallery was a converted warehouse space. All white walls and concrete floors humming with the low chatter of a weekend crowd. I found Mark and Chloe by a plinth holding a stunning twisted vase that looked both fragile and indestructible. After congratulating her, I wandered a glass of passable Cabernet in my hand, appreciating the art without needing to articulate why. That's when I saw her. Sarah was standing near a large splattered canvas, looking at it but not seeing it. She was with a friend I vaguely recognized, and she looked diminished. The vibrant, demanding energy she'd always carried was muted. Her shoulders were slightly hunched, and even from across the room, I could see a tired tension around her eyes. The experiences hadn't filled her. They'd sanded her down. She was staring into her wine glass as if it held the answers. Our eyes met. Hers widened, a jolt of pure electric recognition flashing through them, followed immediately by a flood of confusion, hope, and sheer panic. She whispered something to her friend, who glanced over at me with a judgmental frown. Sarah smoothed her dress a little too dressy for the venue, and started walking toward me. There was no avoiding it without causing a scene, and I had no desire to flee. My piece was portable now. She stopped a few feet away, her eyes drinking me in. I knew what she saw. A man standing easily, his face relaxed, his eyes clear. I had gained a little muscle from running, lost the subtle, constant stress line between my brows. I looked simply like I was okay. Hi, she said. Her voice was softer than I remembered. Wow. You look really good. Hello, Sarah, I said. A polite neutral tone, the tone you'd use with a former colleague you hadn't seen in years. She flinched just barely at the coolness. She took a half step closer. Can we talk for just a minute? I've been doing a lot of thinking, a lot of therapy, actually. She said the last part like it was a credential, a badge of work done. I didn't move. Sure. She took a shaky breath, her words tumbling out in a rehearsed rush. I was an idiot. What I asked for was monstrous. I see that now. I was scared and insecure, and I externalized it in the most toxic way possible. I treated you like an option and you were never that. You were my choice. I just didn't know how to know it. I listened, my expression unchanging. She was saying the right words, the words I might have once sold my soul to hear. Now they were just sounds. It's okay, I said when she paused. You don't need to explain. Her face lit up with fragile, desperate hope. She mistook my lack of anger for absolution. So, you forgive me. That's when I gave her the final gift of clarity. There's nothing to forgive, Sarah. I took a small sip of my wine, My movements calm. Your request was a gift. It was the clearest, most honest thing you ever gave me. It showed me in high definition exactly what our marriage would have been, a perpetual audition. I wasn't being asked to be a husband. I was being asked to be the winning contestant on a game show I never agreed to enter, so I removed myself from the competition. Her hopeful expression froze, then began to crack. I continued, my voice even focused on my own revelation. And I've discovered something profound in these last months, the certainty you were looking for out there. I gestured vaguely to the world outside. I found it in here. I tapped my chest just once. The certainty that I will never again tie my worth to someone else's validation tour. That piece is more valuable than any passionate what if. For that lesson, I am actually grateful. Tears welled in her eyes. But they were tears of frustration of a plan failing. But I know now. I'm sure you're the one. I've never been more certain of anything in my life. I nodded as if acknowledging a reported fact about the weather. I believe you are. She blinked, confused by the lack of victory. And it doesn't matter, I said, finishing the thought. My certainty is the only one that governs my life now. And I am certain that I will never be with someone who needs to test my value against a lineup of strangers. That paradigm is beneath me. I hope you find what you're looking for, Sarah. Truly, I saw it then. The full, devastating understanding crashing over her. She was certain, and her certainty had arrived at a closed door, a door she had bolted shut herself. She was holding the key to a room that no longer existed. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. The friend was hovering now, looking concerned. I offered her a small, final, polite smile. The smile of a man closing a business transaction that had long been settled. Enjoy the show. I turned and walked back toward Mark and Chloe. Mark raised an eyebrow. Everything cool? Yeah, I said, and I meant it. My heart rate hadn't even elevated. Everything's fine. I glanced back once out of human curiosity more than anything. Sarah was still rooted to the spot, her friend's arm around her shoulders, staring at the space where I had been standing. She looked utterly completely alone in the middle of the crowd. I turned my attention to Chloe's vase, to the conversation, to the rest of my life. The noise of the gallery faded into a pleasant background hum. The silence I had cultivated, the peace I had built, it wasn't around me anymore. It was within me, and it was unshakable. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.